The Orlando Magic might just deal away Wendell Carter Jr. to either the Lakers or the New Orleans Pelicans, as they are both keeping tabs on the stretch five big man who Orlando might not need anymore after this upcoming season. We're going to get into the validity of the rumors and whether or not Wendell Carter Jr. will be wearing a different jersey than the Orlando Magic's this upcoming season. But first, guys, if you are not subscribed to the channel, it's the easiest way to support us here at Magic Digest. 96.5% of you who are watching our videos aren't subscribed. So join the 3.5%, subscribe to the channel. It's the best way to support us here at Magic Digest. Now, let's get into the initial report, starting with the New Orleans Pelicans' interest, because some of it is brewing from prior to free agency starting, but reports are still coming in that they're still very interested. It said, according to The Athletic, the Pelicans have long had their eyes on two centers, specifically Cleveland Cavs all-star Jared Allen and Wendell Carter Jr. of the Orlando Magic. Now, this is a team, we'll get into their specific situation in a bit, that is losing some production at the center position, and they obviously want to get a guy with an expiring contract like Wendell Carter Jr. who can play alongside Zion Williamson. So they are very interested, and obviously they're very impressed, I think, with the way that Jared Allen of the Cavs plays alongside Evan Mobley. So they want a guy who can be versatile and play with Zion and make sure that he doesn't have to be a small ball five, or they can continue to have production at that center position, even if they end up dealing Brandon Ingram. But we'll get into their situation in a minute. What came out today and could potentially start a bidding war with the Pelicans is the fact that the Los Angeles Lakers are very interested in giving Anthony Davis a running mate, a stretch five, so he can move to the four. It's been well reported how much Anthony Davis does not want to play the five position. He's very comfortable, much more comfortable, I should say, at the four position. So he does not want to play the center position. So they're interested in some big men, and it's come out today that they are very interested in the Magic's Wendell Carter Jr. They like his $11.9 million that he is making next season. And so that is probably one of the biggest reasons I'd say that they are very interested. Now, let's jump right into a report coming from an NBA executive who did talk to the people at Heavy Sports who made that initial report. He said, describing Wendell Carter Jr., he's fairly young, probably a little undervalued because of his red flags, his injuries, and still tapping into his skill set. The contract is right. It makes sense for them. That's a guy they're monitoring, but a lot of teams are. So I think that this is pretty safe to say that this could end up turning into a small level bidding war. Now, Wendell Carter Jr. isn't on the level of some of the top stars in the NBA, but when we're talking about NBA executives saying that the Lakers are interested, Pelicans, there are reports that the Hawks even had a little bit of interest prior to free agency starting, and the Magic having signed everybody, I think it's easier to think or to believe that Wendell Carter Jr. is going to have a few different potential suitors. And this is a guy that I personally, after seeing plenty of Magic basketball over the years, could see him on in a rotation of a very competitive team, as he is currently, I believe, with the Orlando Magic. But let's get into how he fits on the New Orleans Pelicans. Well, why would they want him, and is this a team that's going to go after Wendell Carter Jr.? Well, I think he fits perfectly, honestly. I do think he fills a strict need that they have. They just lost Jonas Valanciunas to the Washington Wizards in free agency. They sent Larry Nash Jr. and Cody Zeller to the Atlanta Hawks to get DeJounte Murray, so they had zero big men to start free agency. So what did they do? Well, they drafted a big man, and they ended up signing Daniel Theis. So they patched it up in a sense. Now, that it wasn't like Flex Seal patch up, but it was kind of like duct tape patch up. So they're going to need another answer, and that could potentially be Wendell Carter Jr. Are they in the market to make another potentially big time ish trade in free agency? Well, they're trying to deal Brandon Ingram, so I'd imagine he wouldn't be involved with the Magic. That could potentially be a 3-team trade if they wanted to do that, but I definitely see them in the market to get another center, because I don't know if they, after making the trade to get DeJounte Murray, if they want to go into this season without a center that could provide any production. They're kind of a very small lineup, and Wendell Carter Jr. can play the 5, he can also play the 4, so I think rotationally he fits pretty well, and he provides scoring in the front court whenever you might end up trading away Brandon Ingram. But we'll see if they end up doing that, but I'd say right now it definitely the move definitely fits, and I could definitely see the New Orleans Pelicans sending an offer the Orlando Magic's way. Now, moving to the Lakers, I already mentioned it a little bit. Anthony Davis doesn't want to play the five, so they obviously want to get a stretch big for him to play the four. They kind of had a big swing and a miss in this free agency. So what are you going to do, right? You're going to potentially make a trade that can revitalize your team. And I think getting some front court help, some front court scoring help for the Lakers is probably is definitely something that they want to do. And I would say that based off of the quote that I just mentioned earlier from the NBA executive, kind of just fits the safe, cheap option that a lot of teams, especially teams in contention, are looking for. And the Lakers are in a win now mode, so I don't see why they also wouldn't try to make a run to go get Wendell Carter Jr. He certainly isn't going to change your franchise, but statistically he's not bad at all. Averaging 11 points, 7 boards, and a couple assists, and he's shooting pretty well, especially from three-point range at almost 38% from the three-point line. So if I'm the Los Angeles Lakers and I want a little bit of extra scoring, I definitely see why they would want to do that. They obviously probably wanted to upgrade at point guard, add a star, but they are still going to improve shooting and add another big man alongside Anthony Davis if they were to make a trade for Wendell Carter Jr. So I still see that as potentially a win for the Lakers in free agency. At the end of the day, they're just going to have to hope that their draft picks hit and get another quality role player to add to that Lakers lineup, and then just roll with it and hope that they don't run into the Denver Nuggets essentially in the playoffs. But now that we've talked about the Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans, who are definitely look to be buyers in this market for Wendell Carter Jr. or for a stretch center, what is the Orlando Magic's viewpoint? Is it 100% that they're going to trade him? Well, right now we haven't really heard much from the Magic camp. We have they're going to keep their cards close to their chest, and we haven't heard much from the front office. Well, I think from what we've seen them do in this offseason, I think it is fair to say that Wendell Carter Jr. could be the odd man out. Could be a musical chair situation where everybody's got the chair, but Wendell Carter Jr. and he's on the outside looking in. They re-signed a ton of players. They restructured the deal with Jonathan Isaac, and I don't know if the timeline fits for the Magic anymore. I think Wendell Carter Jr., as far as his role on the Magic, has obviously decreased over the last few years. I mentioned that. He's since the pillars of the franchise have entered, Franz and Paolo, kind of ended up not being Wendell Carter Jr.'s team. That makes sense because it's certainly not as good as them, but he was potentially the best player that we had on the team a couple years ago. That's not the case anymore. And defensively, he's good, he's serviceable, but we have better defenders in the front court, and we have not a guy who can score to that level at the center position on the Magic, but we got guys in the front court that could score. We have already a huge lineup, so do we really need another guy clogging the paint whenever we got good rotational players like Wagner? But I'd say already under contract for 2 to 3 more years. I don't know, and I think the Orlando Magic are assessing that, and they're saying, look, we probably don't really need Wendell Carter Jr. We can trade him for whatever we could get from these teams in contention. Now, another team I wanted to point out was the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks were kind of since they've traded away DeJounte Murray to the New Orleans Pelicans, have been actually connected to Wendell Carter Jr. in the same way that the Pelicans were. They obviously, like I mentioned, got the two individuals in the trade. They got Cody Zeller and Larry Nance Jr. In the front court, so they're kind of okay. But I think what a lot of people were thinking was going to happen was a Markelle Fultz sign and trade, Wendell Carter Jr., Jett Howard, and kind of a big package to get something from the Hawks. I think that the Hawks are still interested. I just don't know if it's as much as it used to be, because I think a lot of people thought that the Magic were going to go out and get Hartenstein, and so there were some teams like the Hawks who were on a little bit of a different timeline, not in a win-now mode, who thought that they could get a bigger package that included Wendell Carter Jr. But I felt like it was important to mention because I still think that a lot of the teams out there still want to get Wendell Carter Jr., even though they're not in a win-now mode. But I felt like the Hawks were probably the top team in that group. The trade that I did mention a little bit was a trade that involved Trae Young going to the Magic. It was Fultz and a sign-and trade. Obviously, they renounced his rights. And then Wendell Carter Jr., Jett Howard, 25 first-round pick, 26 first-round swap. That's a lot. And then they would got Trae Young. I think the Magic have shown that they don't really want to spend too much money right now. So I don't really see a potential trade like that going down, especially one that includes a couple of those first round picks. But those could be in the 20s by 2026. So who knows? And who knows what the what next year's pick will end up being at. But certainly, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that the Orlando Magic are going to deal Wendell Carter Jr. away? I personally do. I think that it makes sense based off of what all the contracts have aligned towards. Do you think it's going to be the Lakers or do you think it's going to be the Pelicans? I think it's those two teams, but I would say don't count out the Hawks and don't count out a couple teams that are in a win now mode. But or is his trade value higher at the trade deadline? I think that could also be something that the Orlando Magic are looking towards as well. But let me know, Lakers or Pelicans? Which one is more likely? Do you think the Magic might deal him to, if they deal him? But that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.